Welcome to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey.
Hello, and welcome back to Building Families, Bridging Differences, a family law journey with Shelly Booth Cooley. Shelly is a certified family law specialist and the founder of the Cooley Law Firm in Las Vegas. She focuses exclusively on family law, helping clients with divorce, custody, adoption, and assisted reproduction, and is known for her compassionate, straightforward approach. I'm Heidi Mack, and today we're talking about how to get divorced when you're still living together. Whether it's because of housing costs, kids, or the timing just not working out, many people find themselves navigating the end of marriage under one roof. Shelley's here to help us break it down. This is How to Divorce When You Still Have to Live Together. Thank you so much for joining us again, Shelley.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's get to it here. So, Shelley, first of all, can a couple file for divorce in Nevada even if they're still living in the same home?
Absolutely. Unlike some other states, folks can reside under the same roof and file for divorce.
Interesting, interesting. So why do some couples stay in the same house then during the divorce process?
Lots of reasons. I would imagine that the primary reason is financial considerations. Oftentimes, when you're going through a divorce, you're going from you know, a, a two family income to separate households with two different incomes. It can be costly and you need some time to prepare for that. Other reasons it is to benefit the children. Living under the same roof, folks often think that it is best for children. I would agree with that, provided that we don't have a lot of fighting and tension, because high conflict is very harmful to children. So if you are in a high conflict situation, or if we're dealing with issues of domestic violence, then staying under the same roof and divorcing is not a good decision.
That makes sense to me. We wouldn't want any of that to happen, obviously, of course. So along with all this, it does sound like this can be really difficult emotionally. What boundaries or possible ground rules do you recommend for couples to put in place early on?
The main ground rules that I would say is that each family it is their own family and they have to do what's best for them. But with that being said, and the reason I said that is there isn't a one size fits all. It is very much dependent on your specific facts and circumstances. Some folks, they end up sleeping in different rooms. I think that that is important to have your own space. Um, some folks agree to when it is one parent's agreed custodial time, then they will be elsewhere. Um, it really just depends on what is going to be most workable. And then some people are able to continue under the same roof and continue co-parenting and raising their children while they're going through divorce. It's a more amicable or uncontested process that would occur in, and that works as well. So it's what is going to work best for you and your family. And what I often do when I'm speaking with my clients is we discuss their specific facts and circumstances, um, the personalities involved, and we figure out what is going to be the best game plan as far as is going forward. So I try to give a very honest evaluation. We certainly don't want anyone to be more harmed going through this process. So sometimes moving out is the absolute best course, um, if it's financially feasible. Otherwise, we figure out how we can make it work while living under the same roof.
So, I mean, Before we keep going with that, I was curious, whenever people are doing this together, like say, they're still in the same house, do you find it common that you guys are using they're using the same lawyer? Or is it more common, like the more common practice where it's two separate lawyers?
Most folks, well, actually, let me scratch that. Representing two parties is a minefield as far as ethical considerations. There are conflict of interest issues. In my 20 something years of practice, I have represented both parties maybe twice. It's really not something that you should do. And doing that, I made it clear to both parties that if there was 100% transparency, they both had to sign conflict waivers. Um, and I also told them that if there were any snags along the way, then I would have to withdraw and they would each have to get their own counsel. So it, it really is not wise to have both parties represented by the same attorney. What you can do if you are concerned about, um, you know, one party having an attorney and the other party not, I've done this before. I know other attorneys do this as well. If you can't afford to retain counsel, I've scheduled consultations with folks and I will review their divorce paperwork, make sure that they understand it, let them know, give them advice regarding that so that if they are comfortable, then they can go forward without representation. But you should either have retained counsel or you should at least meet with an attorney to have them review your paperwork to make sure that you understand exactly what you're agreeing to and that you are not giving up important rights that you should not.
Got it, got it. I was just curious, yeah, two people being in the house, maybe that's is something that was common, but it doesn't seem like it is.
Not in Nevada. Not sure about other jurisdictions, but Nevada is not common.
Got it, got it. Well, I mean, going along with that, with, everyone being in the house and with children, how does staying in the same home affect child custody or co-parenting decisions during this process?
Normally, if you are going to go through a divorce and both folks are in the residence, we're looking at a joint physical custody situation, meaning the parties are sharing custody of the children. And another circumstance where that may work is when we've got parents who have structured their schedules so that they're on opposite schedules so they don't have to have childcare for their children. So that would be a way, for instance, one party works days, one party works nights. So that would be a way for them to, readjust their schedules post divorce while still continuing the parenting relationship that the children have known through the marriage. So that's another way that you might see that circumstance. But what we're looking at with that type of a situation is oftentimes a joint physical custody situation, meaning each parent has custody of the children approximately half the time, but as much as 60% and as little as 40%.
If a couple is still living together, then do you ever recommend for them to wait to file until one of them moves out, or is it better to keep moving forward and then just create those boundaries in the house?
Again, that depends on the specific facts and circumstances of the case. And you'll hear I use that term often. And the reason is family law is absolutely fact and circumstance dependent. Each couple, each family is different. There are no two families alike. So what works for one family may not work for another family. And the advice I give each family very much depends on what is going on with that family system. So there may be circumstances where I suggest not filing until one of the families or one of the parents is moved out. Um, but there also may be circumstances where it doesn't matter. So it very much depends on the facts and circumstances.
Interesting. So, hopefully things are amicable, but if it's not, like, say if someone does feel unsafe during this divorce in the home, can they ask a judge, to let them stay in the home while the other person moves out or vice versa?
Absolutely. If we're dealing with circumstances involving um, domestic violence or child abuse or neglect, we can actually seek court intervention and have the court award exclusive possession of the residence to the parent who is, we'll call that parent the at-risk parent, and to have the other parent move out. It does happen, absolutely. But if we're dealing with issues of safety, then those are very special conversations we need to have, and often urgent conversations. And the facts and circumstances often change by the minute. So those are urgent situations that we treat with the utmost care.
Wow, I'm assuming a lot of people get involved in as well, in that scenario, possibly police, like law enforcement as well, maybe?
Absolutely. Yes, we
Wow.
will have lots of different folks involved. We may have law enforcement, we may have child protective services, we may have the juvenile court system. It really it can get very complicated when we're dealing with those types of situations.
Wow. Well, hopefully, that never comes to be, but if with other things I guess a little lighter type of things like shared expenses with rent or mortgage payments, bills, how does the court handle those?
When both parties are living under the same roof, Um, the court expects expenses to continue to be shared as they were during the marriage. So if one parent paid 80% of the expenses and the other parent paid 20, the court would expect that situation to continue. Um, in Clark County, we can have a joint preliminary injunction issued. And what that is it is a document that requires the parties to maintain the status quo and does not allow either party to make unilateral changes impacting the community. And in most divorces, unless folks have been living separate and apart for many years, which sometimes happens, sometimes people have lived separate and apart for 10 years, and then they decide to get a divorce. We wouldn't necessarily request that a joint preliminary injunction be issued in that case because they've already lived separate and apart for so long. There really is no reason to do that. But when we have folks that are still living together or, have recently moved out and are trying to navigate life separately and co parent children, then a joint preliminary injunction is going to be very important because that tells the parties that they have to continue doing the financial part of their marriage as it's been. So you can't make any changes. You can't clean out bank accounts. You have to share expenses if you shared them. You have to continue doing all of the things that you did during marriage pending the divorce.
Got it. So then, speaking of financially, what are some of the signs then it is time to stop living together, even if it's not the financially convenient?
Domestic violence is one. We've talked about that. That's a very big issue in Nevada. Nevada, domestic violence is a huge issue for women and children. Um, so we've got domestic violence issues. If we have a parent who is has a personality disorder, diagnosed or not diagnosed, Either way, that can make it incredibly difficult to continue remaining together. If we have a parent who is financially abusing, that may be a reason to live separate and apart, although that's going to be difficult, because oftentimes that party is in control of the finances. Um, so it again, it very much depends on the circumstances as well as what a parent's comfort level is. Because if a parent isn't comfortable remaining under the same roof while they're navigating divorce, then it absolutely makes sense for that parent to move out and to figure out what we're doing as far as expenses and children immediately.
Mhm. Well, then, Shelley, finally, what is one piece of advice you'd give someone who's about to start the divorce process but knows they still have to be sharing a home with their spouse for a while?
When you go through a divorce and you are divorced, so we have a divorce that's final. You and your former spouse are going from intimate partners to what I would call business partners. You're in the business of raising your children, and you need to treat each other with respect, like you would a business associate. You need to communicate. You need to be upfront about what's going on with your children. So if you treat the post filing, the post divorce relationship as a business relationship, then chances are that you will be just fine post divorce co parenting your children with this individual.
Wonderful. Thank you for your advice, Shelley. We really appreciate it. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Building Families, Bridging Differences. If you're considering divorce and facing the challenge of staying in the same home, Shelley and her team can help you navigate it with clarity. Visit CooleyLawLV.com, that is COOLEY lawlv.com, to learn more. And don't forget to like, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thank you again for joining us, Shelley. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.